Dude, check out what came for you in the mail.
Oh, yeah! What is it?
If you grew up in the early 2010s, your childhood had a very specific soundtrack. It wasn't just pop music or video game noises, it was the synthesized beep and the sound of two idiots screaming. Whoa! Regular Show shouldn't have worked. Think about it. The pitch is a blue jay and a raccoon work at a park. They're lazy and they want to play video games. That sounds like a boring sitcom hardly anyone would watch. But somehow, within 11 minutes, that mundane setup would always, and I mean always, escalate into a cosmic battle against a 17th century warlock or a floating head from another dimension. This wasn't just a cartoon, it was an experience. An unpredictable ride that started with just a simple chore and ended with the fate of the universe being held by a thread. Growing up, this was my favorite show, hands down. But as I got older, I realized it wasn't just a cartoon, it was a cultural pivot point. It arrived exactly when Cartoon Network was struggling with its identity, and it taught an entire generation that you could be a slacker and a hero at the same time. And today, we're going to be looking at the ridiculous, true, and surprisingly deep cultural impact of the Park crew.
Yo, Chuck, your Mississippi Queen was Mississippi lame.
Yeah, it's not even spicy at all.
Yeah, well, that's called beginner's luck. Luck.
To understand why Regular Show feels so different, you have to look at where it came from. J.G. Quintel, the creator, didn't just pull these characters out of thin air. He developed them during his time at Cal Arts, a renowned art school known for fostering unique animated talents. His student films weren't just assignments, they were laboratories for the bizarre, the mundane, and the strangely profound. If you've ever seen his student short 2 in the AM PM, it's literally about two guys working a late shift at a gas station who accidentally, well, let's just say they see things after eating some questionable sweets. It was essentially Regular Show for adults, an early blueprint for the kind of surreal, escalating humor that would define his later work. These films were more than just school projects, they were the raw, unpolished gems that contained the DNA of what would go on to become a cultural phenomenon. When Cartoon Network picked it up, they were coming off the CN Real era, one of the darkest times in the network's history, where they tried to do live action shows. This ill-fated experiment was a disaster, a detour that only derailed the network's reputation for quality animation. Regular Show, alongside the equally groundbreaking Adventure Time, was the inhuman resuscitation the network desperately needed. These two shows, which premiered within a year of each other, ushered in a new golden age for Cartoon Network, proving that innovative, creator-driven animation was still the key to their success. Quintel brought a distinct student film energy to Saturday morning TV. It used a 2D, slightly sketchy art style that felt grounded and indie. It didn't look the high-gloss corporate animation of the late 2000s, which often prioritized slickness over substance. But Regular Show's visual aesthetic felt raw and hand-drawn. This wasn't just an art style, it was a statement, and that authenticity is probably why we all latched onto it. It didn't feel like it was just trying to sell toys or some corporate agenda. It felt like it was telling us a story that recognizes the true awkwardness and absurdity of growing up. And because the animation wasn't afraid to be a little rough around the edges, that paved the way for other shows to embrace more unique art styles.
Holy crap!
Every Regular Show episode is a lesson in pacing. There's a specific formula that didn't just work for the show itself, but profoundly changed how cartoons were written for the next decade. It was a masterclass in comedic and narrative build-up, executed with surgical precision within its tight 11-minute runtime. It starts with a regular problem. We need to set up chairs for the party, we need to judge a pie contest, we need to get tickets to a concert. It's grounded in the boring, everyday stuff we all deal with, the minor inconveniences and desires that make up much of life. The initial setups are, relatable, so the audience can be drawn in. Consider episodes like Over the Top, where Rigby is caught cheating by Skips in arm wrestling, so Skips kills him. Or Brilliant Century Duck Crisis, where it starts off with a bird, causing distraction in the park, and the episode ends like this. The regular show blueprint has definitely inspired a couple of kids' cartoon shows nowadays. It taught us that the mundane is only one bad decision, one ill-advised shortcut, one poorly thought out wish away from being legendary or utterly catastrophic. It legitimized a new form of animated comedy, proving that cartoons could be both incredibly silly and surprisingly sophisticated in their narrative construction.
Hey, do you guys want to listen to some electro-pop music?
Whoa, you listen to that?
Just on long car trips. It helps keep me awake.
When we were growing up watching regular show, most of us thought Mordecai and Rigby were like the coolest guys ever. They were the rebellious heroes, always looking for a good time, always pushing boundaries. We thought Benson was the villain, he was the hater, the grumpy boss who just wanted to ruin everyone's fun with his incessant demands for work and his ridiculously high standards for park maintenance. He appeared to be the symbol of everything that was uncool about adulthood. But if you go back and watch a regular show now, the perspective shifts drastically. Personally for me, Benson is without a doubt the most relatable character in the show, especially for those who've had a job, or rather been in a management position. He's a middle-aged manager with a short fuse, constantly on the verge of a stress-induced breakdown, who's just trying to keep his job and the park afloat, while his two employees literally summon demons, destroy property, or accidentally open portals to other dimensions every time he asks them to break the leaves or grill sausages for a barbecue. His crash outs aren't unreasonable, they're the daily struggles of a guy trying to maintain order in a chaotic world. This show felt like a workplace comedy for people who weren't old enough to have jobs yet. It dealt with a slacker archetype in a way that felt honest and not glorified. Mordecai and Rigby are like 23 years old doing stuff like this.
What do we say?
Trick or treat! Trick or treat!
Hey, wait a second. Are those even kids in those costumes? Unbelievable!
Give me candy, lady!
These guys were stuck in a quarter-life crisis before we even knew what that term meant. They're directionless, unsure of their future, and most importantly, broke. This resonated deeply with a generation entering an uncertain job market, making their struggles with boredom minimum wage. This show treated romance, rejection, and dead-end jobs with a level of maturity that was unheard of on Cartoon Network. When Mordecai gets dumped by Margaret or CJ or goes through the dreaded friend zone with both of them, it wasn't a throwaway joke, it actually kinda hurt. And this understated emotional depth is a huge part of its lasting impact, proving that cartoons could tackle complex feelings without losing their comedic edge. Most cartoons just end. They get cancelled due to declining ratings, or they trail off into mediocrity, quietly fading into obscurity with an unsatisfying whimper. But Regular Show was different. It went out on its own terms, with one of the most emotional, profound, and artistically daring finales in, dare I say, fictional history. A regular epic final battle. When Pops, the most innocent, kind, and pure character in the show, sacrificed himself to save the universe by flying into the sun, it wasn't just a plot point, it was a gut punch, an unexpected moment of genuine heartbreak and heroic sacrifice that few animated series were able to achieve. For many of us, honestly, it felt like the definitive end of our childhoods. A symbolic moment where the carefree absurdity gave way to a somber, yet beautiful conclusion. This wasn't just a cartoon character dying, it was the ultimate act of selflessness, cementing Pops' place as an unlikely hero and leaving a lasting emotional mark on us viewers. Seeing Mordecai and Rigby grow up, pursue their passions, have families, and eventually meet back up at the park as old men, still being able to look back on the past and laugh, that hit different. If you watch the finale, then you know the music that I'm playing in the background right now is the same song they set the montage to for the episode. It was a perfect encapsulation of the show's spirit, celebrating the everyday heroes who, despite their flaws, managed to make a profound impact. Yes, a lot of the show's cultural impact is in the memes and the iconic jokes that still echo across the internet today, but it's also the fact that it taught us how to grow up without losing our weird sense of humor or our capacity for imaginative escapism. It showed us that friendships change, jobs come and go, romantic relationships evolve, but the core memories of slacking off with your best friend, of turning off the mundane into the magical, are actually what matter and define our shared history. This show made workplace stress surprisingly funny and relatable, and it proved that a blue jay and a raccoon could be the most human, flawed, and ultimately most heroic characters on TV. And now the show's legacy is etched into the minds of a generation.